Hi and welcome to another story, and today we have part 5 of The Worry website by Jacqueline Wilson, continuing from page 84, Samantha's Worry. Type in your worry. I miss my dad. It's just not the same now he's gone, and my mum is either sad or snappy nowadays, and my little brother is ever so naughty and keeps spoiling all my things, and no one wants to be my boyfriend, and I don't think my teacher likes me any more either. He always used to pick me to be his special messenger, but now he picks Holly, or Greg, or Claire, or even William. It's so awful. I've always been the girl everyone likes. Everyone always wants to sit next to me, or be my partner. Everyone wants to be invited for tea at my house, or come to my party. But now it's all changed. Dad went last year. He and Mum had lots of rows, but everyone's parents have rows. I didn't like it, but it didn't really bother me. My little brother Simon used to crawl into my bed and sit on my lap, and he made me cup my hands over his funny little sticky out ears so he couldn't hear the shouting. I didn't have anyone to put their hands over my ears, but I didn't mind too much. I wanted to know what was going on. I was always going on Dad's side, no matter what. I love my mum, but she's not Dad. Dad looks like a film star. He really does, with lovely blonde hair and deep blue eyes, and he's really fit too, because he works out and plays a lot of sport. That was what Mum and Dad rowed about. Dad always flirted with all the ladies he met at badminton and tennis and swimming. My mum used to go too, but then she had me and couldn't get out so much. And then she had Simon and stayed a bit plump, so she didn't want to wear tight, sporty clothes anyway. Dad took me sometimes. He got me my own special little tennis racket and threw the ball at me again and again. We went swimming on Sunday mornings, and he showed me how to dive and swim right down to the bottom of the deep end, and he called me his little dolphin. But then he met this horrible woman, Sandy, at his gym, and Mum found out. Dad didn't stop seeing Sandy. He packed his bag and walked out and stopped seeing us. He said he wasn't leaving me. He was just leaving Mum. He said he was still my dad and he loved me lots and lots and lots, and he'd see me every single week. But that hasn't worked out because he and Sandy have moved away, and now that Sandy's going to have a baby, Dad doesn't come over so much. I haven't seen him for a few weeks now. He was supposed to come last weekend for Simon's birthday. He absolutely promised. But the day before, he rang to say Sandy had got these special tickets for a trip to Paris as a surprise, so they were going there instead. Mum shouted down the phone that he obviously couldn't care less about his own son and his birthday. Dad said that he loved Simon very much, but perhaps it wasn't good for him to see him so often anyway, because Simon got very overexcited and silly, and the visits were obviously upsetting him. Simon kicked Sandy hard on the shin the last time we went round to Dad's new place. I wished I was young enough to kick Sandy too. Mum said we didn't need Dad at Simon's party. We'd have a much better time by ourselves. But we didn't. I don't suppose Dad will come to my party now either. No one will come to my party. No one likes me anymore. It was so awful on the bus when we all went to the museum. Greg was horrible to me. I thought he really liked me. But he's nuts on Holly instead. Holly hates me too. She always pulls her face and sighs when I start talking. And Mr. Speed likes Holly best now. I just know he does. He's always chatting to her. He makes a great big fuss of Claire too. And though he's always telling Greg off, you can tell he thinks he's really funny. Mr. Speed even likes Silly Willy William more than me. William banged right into me at lunchtime and spilt his orange juice squash all down my school blouse. I shouted at him. William looked upset in his silly, goofy way. I'm sorry, Samantha. I didn't mean to. I was just in a hurry to get seconds. Look at my blouse. It's all orange, I said, plucking at my dripping blouse. It looks like a pretty pattern. Orange is a lovely colour, said William. Here, let's dry it a bit. He picked up the messy old cloth we used to wipe the tables and started dabbing at me, smearing bits of old chip and pizza sauce all over my blouse, making it 100 times worse. Leave off, William. Don't be so stupid, I shouted. William burst into tears like a baby. Mr. Speed came dashing up. Hey, why are two of my favourite pupils abusing each other so bitterly, he asked. Don't cry, William. I'm not anyone's favourite, I said, and I burst into tears too. Mr. Speed tutted and sighed and mopped us both. He told William he could have extra chips if he stopped crying. William cheered up immediately and went bounding off. I think your problems are possibly less easily solved, Samantha, said Mr. Speed, but you'll certainly feel a little better if we find you a change of blouse. That one's sopping. How about changing into your PE shirt? I took it home for Mum to wash, I sniffed. Oh dear, never mind. Come with me. I trailed after him miserably. I might have someone's spare PE top in the classroom cupboard, said Mr. Speed. While he was searching high and low amongst ancient confiscated Pokemon cards and the single plimsolls and dried-up felt tips, I went and looked to see if I had any replies on the Worry website. Comments. My dad is so scary, I wish he wasn't at home with us. My dad's great, but he's always tired because of his new job, so I hardly ever get to talk to him either. My mum gets cross too, and my dad. Yeah, and my little sister can be a right pain too. And as a matter of fact, I don't see my mum, but I don't go on and on about it. And I can't help it if Mr. Speed sometimes picks me to do stuff now. It doesn't mean he's stopped liking you. Mr. Speed came and peered over my shoulder. Budge over, Samantha, he typed. Of course your teacher likes you. He is a wonderful, kindly man who likes everyone, especially sad little souls going through a bad patch. There, said Mr. Speed. Do you think this particular sad little soul will be comforted, Samantha? Maybe just a little bit, I said. It's probably surprising to an extremely popular girl like you that someone can feel so lonely, said Mr. Speed. I said. I can't find a spare shirt anywhere. Come with me. We'll see if Mrs. Holmes has a hidden cachet in her office. We went down the corridor to the main entrance. Mr. Speed bobbed into the secretary's office while I hung around, picking at my sticky, sodden blouse. There were paintings stuck all over the walls. Some of them had been there for a while and were curling at the edges. There were a few My Family paintings our class did last year. My picture was there. I'd painted my dad and my mum and my little brother and me, all of us standing in a line and smiling. The red paint had run a bit when I did my face, so my lips were huge. I stared at my stupid gigantic grin, and then I punched the paper, bashing my own pinkly painted face. My little brother was grinning too. It was his fault Dad didn't come any more, because he behaved so badly. I hit my little brother too. The paper tore a little, so that my mum's head was nearly split in two. I didn't care. If she hadn't shouted so much, Dad might have stayed. I looked at Dad. I'd painted him extra carefully, though I couldn't get the colours quite right. His hair was bright lemon, his eyes ultramarine, his cheeks scarlet. I wasn't really that great at painting. I couldn't make my dad look handsome enough. I printed my family underneath, but Dad wasn't really part of our family anymore. He was part of a brand new family with Sandy. He was going to have this new baby too. I hoped it wouldn't be a little girl. He'd love her much more than he loved me. My fist clenched, and I punched Dad hard again and again, harder and harder. Hey, stop it, Samantha. You'll hurt your poor hand, Mr. Speed shouted, rushing out of Mrs. Holmes' office. I don't care, I yelled. I punched my painting again, even though there were beads of blood on my knuckles, and my arm throbbed all the way up past my elbow. Well, I care, said Mr. Speed. Good Lord, child, stop it. He caught hold of my hand. I burst into tears. Mr. Speed patted me gently on the back, and then led me into Mrs. Holmes' office. She found me a box of tissues, a clean blouse, and a big bandage for my fist. Mr. Speed came back to collect me. Ah, all mucked up? I nodded. I'll take you back to the classroom, sweetheart. Dear, oh dear, I'd better have a word with your mum when she comes to collect you. I don't want you to have a word with my mum, Mr. Speed. I want you to have a word with my dad. I looked up at him. You're great at fixing things, aren't you? I bet you could sort out all the worries on our website. Well, why can't you sort out mine? Can't you make my dad come back? Mr. Speed sighed. I can't do that, Samantha. I can sometimes solve little tiny problems, but I can't do a thing about big sad problems. Not even mine. My own marriage broke up a while ago. I know just how you're feeling, Poppet. Did you leave your children, Mr. Speed? I don't have any children, he said. He gave a funny little grin. Maybe teaching all you lot put me off having any of my own. But if you did have children, would you walk out on them? Oh, Samantha, how can I possibly answer that one, said Mr. Speed. I bet you wouldn't, I said. I thought about my dad. I saw him walking off, his arm around Sandy. I stood still in the corridor. I hate my dad. I whispered the words. The words tasted bad in my mouth, so I spat them out louder. I hate my dad. Yes, I can understand that, said Mr. Speed, though you still love him lots too. But you're very, very angry with him. That's why you started punching the picture. But that's not really a good idea, is it? You only hurt your poor old hand. He carefully patted my bandage. What do you think I should do then, Mr. Speed? Punch my dad? That's maybe not a good idea either. Our Simon kicked his girlfriend. She got a big bruise on her leg. Oh dear, I shall wear shin pads when your Simon comes up into the juniors. He's in Miss Morgan's class, isn't he? She'll channel all his energy into finger painting or digging into the sandpit. Excellent activities. How about a spot of digging, Samantha? How about getting a spade and having a good dig in your garden whenever you feel especially cross or miserable? We live in a flat, Mr. Speed. We haven't even got a window box. Ah, well, perhaps we could purloin a little patch of the school garden. Mr. Speed smiled. Let's go and have a look around. See if we can find the right little corner. So Mr. Speed and I went across the playground over to the garden. I'd played on the grass heaps of times, but I'd never really looked properly at the garden bit before. I peered at the plants. Mr. Speed started spouting all these long Latin names. I listened politely, not really taking any of it in until Mr. Speed pointed to a patch of earth behind a big bush. Aha! This looks the perfect plot. OK, Samantha, this is your patch. I'll find you a spade. You can dig here any playtime or lunchtime, before school, after school, whenever. I tried having a little dig there and then. I couldn't do too much because of my sore hand. I wasn't very good at it at first. I was too quick and clumsy and couldn't budge the hard earth. Mr. Speed showed me how to do it, slowly and rhythmically, putting my foot on the spade, straightening up so I wouldn't hurt my back. That's it. You've got into the swing of things now. We'll be hiring you out on building sites at this rate. You'll have muscles like Madonna by the end of the month. I think digging has made me stronger. Greg was mucking around in the corridor doing a silly dance and showing off in front of Holly. He did a twiddly bit and banged right into me. I pushed him away so hard he nearly fell over. That'll teach him. I can't stick Greg now. I don't envy Holly one bit. I wouldn't want him as a boyfriend even if you paid me. I don't want William as my boyfriend either, but he seems to think he is. I cheered up a bit after I had my first little dig. I felt mean for making William cry, so I went up to him after school. He cowered away as if I was going to hit him. That made me feel worse, so I put my arm round him. Sorry I yelled at you, William, I said, and I gave him a hug. I thought that was it. It was as far as I was concerned, but now William goes pink whenever I go near him, and he follows me around like a little dog. He tries to carry my school bag and rushes to get my school lunch for me, and whenever I go for a dig, William trails after me and wants to dig too. I had a little moan about it to Mr. Speed. It was my private patch, Mr. Speed, and now William wants to dig too. Yeah, I can see it's annoying having young William under your feet all the time, Samantha, but on the other hand, he needs a bit of digging therapy himself. OK, Mr. Speed, but I wish he didn't have to dig on my bit. I tried planting an apple core just to see if it might just grow up into an apple tree, and William dug it up the very next day. Perhaps you could mark off your special bit and make sure William keeps to his, and I'll let you have a few seeds and bulbs if you fancy a spot of real gardening. That's a great idea. So I divided my patch into two and told William he could dig all he wanted on his own bit. Mr. Speed brought us lots of lovely things to plant in our new gardens. Mine were a mixture of pretty flower seeds, pinks and pansies, and primroses and sweet peas. And I'll see if I can get some raspberry canes too. They'll be a lot speedier than apple trees, said Mr. Speed. I thought you'd like to grow something to eat too, William. Seeing as you're the lad of gargantuan appetite, I thought potatoes would be more in your line. Think of all those chips. And we might go for something really exotic like a marrow. That would be a challenge for the enormous mouthful contest, but you better have a few flowers too. Mr. Speed handed him a seed packet with a picture of deeply purple, red and white little flowers on it. They were called Sweet Williams. I wish there was a flower called Sweet Samantha, said Mr. Speed. So now I've stopped digging and started gardening. Little weeny green shoots are starting to grow through the very well dug earth. They might just be little weeds though. We'll have to wait and see. Mr. Speed brought William and me a tomato plant today. My dad loves tomatoes. He can gollop up a whole pound easy peasy if he comes to visit. When my tomatoes are ripe, I might offer him his very own homegrown tomato salad. But if he doesn't come, then Mum and Simon and me will eat them all up. Well, I'll save enough for a special tomato sandwich for Mr. Speed. I have one worry less. My teacher really does like me lots. And that is where we will leave part 5 of the Worry website by Jacqueline Wilson. I'll be back soon with the next part of this fantastic little compilation of stories with Lisa's Worry. If you'd like to subscribe or hit a like, that's always appreciated. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care. Bye-bye.